Hi kids, welcome to another magazine about animals. This magazine is about bees. I'm more afraid of wasps than bees because, yeah, bees do sting sometimes, but a bee will usually sting and go away. A wasp will keep going after you sometimes. This is by Laura Marsh, and they're the bees in their hive. Normally, bees will leave you alone as long as you leave them alone. So buzz. Outside the sun is shining, the flowers are blooming, and the bees are buzzing. What kind of bee is hard to understand? A mumblebee. When some people see bees, they run. Others might not notice the bees. But let's stop and take a closer look. Bees are helpful. Our world needs bees. Helpful bees. Bees help both people and plants. Honeybees make honey and beeswax. People use these things in a lot of ways. Beeswax is used to make candles and cleaning supplies. Honey is sweet and delicious. A bee sits on the flower of a strawberry plant. All kinds of bees help plants make seeds. Seeds can grow into new plants. Some of those plants give us fruits and vegetables. See the strawberries? We can thank bees for strawberries, apples, almonds, tomatoes, and many other foods. Pollen power. When a bee lands on a flower, the flower's pollen rubs off on the bee. Pollen sticks to tiny hairs on the bee's body. Pollen is a sticky yellow powder made by flowers. The bee has pollen all over its body. When the bee travels to another flower, pollen from the bee brushes off onto the new flower. This is called pollination. Now the new flower can start to make seeds. A bee's leg has special hairs that form a basket. The bee brushes pollen into the basket. Then it flies back to the nest. This pollen is used as food for baby bees. So here's an empty pollen basket. And then it shows these pollen baskets are filled with pollen. Only female bees have them. So I've never heard of that before. I'm learning something new too. And then you have the tongue on a bumblebee. Bees collect nectar from flowers too. They drink nectar with their tongues. Some bees make honey out of nectar. These bees are called honeybees. So nectar is a sweet, sugary juice that flowers make. 7 cool facts about bees. The garden bumblebee has a tongue that is as long as its body. 2 humans collected honey from bees as early as 6000 BC. Number 3, bees have 4 wings, 2 large wings and 2 small wings. Number 4, bees can see colors. They are most likely to land on flowers that are blue, purple, or yellow. Farmers often hire beekeepers to bring bees to their fields. The bees pollinate the farmers' crops. Honeybees do a dance called the waggle. Scientists think that the dance shows other bees in the hive where the best nectar is. I've heard of that one. They've got videos on YouTube about that one. About 1/3 of the food on our planet grows because of bees' population. A bee or not a bee? It's easy to mistake other insects for bees. Here's a picture of a bee. Right here on this side. That's a bee. A bee has hair all over its body that helps catch pollen, eats nectar and pollen from flowers, and has pollen baskets if the bee is female. Now here is not a bee. That's a yellow jacket wasp. Run away. What do you call a wasp? A wannabe. But there are ways to tell them apart. Take a closer look at a bee and a yellow jacket wasp, which is not a bee. Do you see what's different? Do you see what's different? See, the wasp does not have a lot of hair like the bee, and it doesn't have pollen baskets, and it eats mostly meat, such as other insects. It's not into flowers for the most part. A world of bees. Most bees are solitary bees. About 20,000 kinds of bees live on Earth. All bees are either solitary bees or social bees. A solitary bee makes a nest for its young. The nest is inside a hole in the ground, in wood, in walls, or in plant stems. Solitary bees collect pollen, but they do not make honey or beeswax. Social bees live with many other bees. A group of social bees is called a colony. A colony of bees lives in a hive. Honeybees are one kind of social bee. As many as 50,000 honeybees may live in one hive. Bees care for their young. They make and store honey in the hive too. A hive is an open space within a tree, structure, or box where social bees live together. What goes zub zub? A bee flying backwards. Here's a honeybee hive. Look at all those bees. Home sweet home. Inside the hive, honeybees build with beeswax. The bees mold the wax into six-sided shapes called cells. Lots of cells together make a honeycomb. A honeycomb is a sheet of six-sided cells. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Six-sided cells made of beeswax. The bees put nectar from flowers into some of the cells. As the nectar gets thicker, it turns into honey. Bees eat the honey for food. Each cell has one egg. Adult bees feed and care for their young. Other cells in the hive hold bee eggs. There is one egg in each cell. The eggs hatch. The young bees grow and change. After 21 to 24 days, the young bees become adults. So they grow up in like a month. These young are almost ready to come out of the cells. A bee starts as an egg and becomes an adult in about 3 weeks. So bees grow up pretty fast. Busy as a bee. Every honeybee in the colony has a special job. These jobs keep the colony healthy and strong. There is only one queen bee. She is bigger than the other bees. She lays all of the eggs, up to 1,500 eggs per day. Worker bees surround the queen. She is the largest bee in the middle. So there she is, see, the queen, she's got that long abdomen, and all the worker bees surround her. There are 2 other kinds of bees in the colony. This worker bee is collecting pollen. Drone bees are male bees. Their job is to help the queen make eggs. Worker bees have many jobs. These females feed the queen and care for the young. They build the hive and make honey. On long flying trips, they collect pollen and nectar. They also guard the hive against enemies. Whew, that's a lot of work. Keeping bees. Beekeepers wear special clothes to protect them from stings. Some humans build honeybee hives out of wooden boxes. Beekeepers take care of the hives and collect the honey. Beekeepers also check the bee colonies to make sure they are healthy. Beekeepers know how important bees are to our world. Why did the bee get married? Because he found his honey. Be aware. Here are some tips for staying safe around bees. Move slowly. Don't wave your arms or jump around. If a bee thinks it's being attacked, it may sting. If a bee comes near you, stand still or walk slowly away. Do not swat at a bee. Let it fly away on its own. Do not disturb any bee nest or honeybee hive. The bees will defend their home and may sting an attacker. So then I know I told you that bees usually sting only once and then leave you alone, but if you got a swarm of bees coming after you, that's a lot of stings. So, stay away from the hive. If you are stung by a bee, put ice on the sting. If you leave bees alone, they will probably leave you alone. And then they give you a quiz at the end. I'll do one question. Bees are helpful because they A, make honey, B, help plants make seeds, or C, make beeswax. And the answer is D, all of the above. So bees do a lot of things. And there's the glossary in the back. I hope you enjoyed this book. As you can see from the back, National Geographic has a lot of interesting magazines, and we'll be getting to more later. This book was a reading independently book, so it's kind of long, but it's not that bad. Hope you have a good night.